it together.
More abundant, more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And every week, I remind people at the top of the show to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we have close to 100 shows archived on our website, and you can learn about all sorts of amazing things that we've been talking about conscious evolution, conscious business, conscious environment, how just to really live your inspired life, the best life ever. And it's livingyourinspiredlife.org. So with that said, I have a preamble I have to do here first, because I've been in the process personally of moving. And that, of course, brings up all the stuff. It's just not the emotional stuff and the mental stuff, but it's going through the physical stuff. And in going through the physical stuff, you often run into roadblocks I remember standing in my kitchen going, I don't know, do I keep this or do I throw it away? Do I put it in a box or what do I do? And so during the process of moving, I've met some amazing individuals, and one of them is in the studio with me today. She's a professional organizer, and I want to welcome Denise Abdun-Nur.
Thank you.
And your company is called Amazing Grace Organizing.
Yes.
And the website is?
AmazingGraceOrganizing.com.
.com. And everybody spell it all out, all the G's.
Yes.
Amazing Grace.
Yes.
Organizing.
Yes.
So I'm all right, so I'm just going to say this. I've said this to you privately, but I'm going to say it on air. You are a gift to me.
Oh.
You were a gift to me from the minute you were recommended to me, and I was stuck trying to sort my garage. What am I keeping? What am I giving away? And I thought, well, I gotta call this person, because I don't know what to do. And it's kind of like therapy, Denise. The minute I made the phone call and you were on your way to my house, I went out into my garage and I went, oh, I know what to do. This, that. And I felt like I was practically done by the time you got there. So thank you for being the gift that you are. And I would imagine you are that to many, many people because of the skill set that you bring.
Thank you. Well, I felt like we were a gift to each other. And that's probably the main reason that I love working with people, because when you teach or when you lead is when you also learn a lot.
Yeah.
And when I go to help you, I go home and I'm able to do stuff at my house that I couldn't do before, because it's always easier to learn looking at someone else. And you're amazing. You're not the average client that I would work with. You're not. You're not.
Thank you.
And so, as you know, working with people, some people can drain your energy and some people can lift your energy. And you're rather inspirational in the way you work, because you'll take the ideas, you'll roll with it, and you'll fly, and you'll end up helping other people. So that's exciting to me. It's very, very exciting.
Well, so I'm curious, because actually I kind of heard about people that are professional organizers, kind of on the peripheral of my wisdom, I guess. And so what led you to become that? I mean, how do you wake up one day and go, I know what I'm going to do for a living?
Well, I have the genetics.
You do?
Yeah. And I didn't realize that it was a family gene until later in life.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, at my father's funeral, I was sitting at a table, and we always knew that my father was good at purging. And when he got into it, he was a physician. And so I think a lot of people with jobs that are intellectual, there's a sense of satisfaction when you can go and do something physical and get short-term gains, or
yeah.
But at his funeral, we were sitting and I was talking with cousins, and I found that it ran through our family, that there was this gene. And we joke, and people love to make fun of obsessive compulsive people and people that are too organized. But later in life, I realized it was just something that I had to have, order.
Yes.
I just had to have order, and that peace in the world started right inside of me and in my space. And I just couldn't go to sleep at night if there was just chaos in my home or in my space. So it all came about around the time when my dad passed, because I've always organized. I've always loved doing it. I never had enough projects. My family was like, no, get out of here. Don't touch my stuff. But when my father passed, I retired prematurely from teaching. And then I realized, just so I could hang out with him, and then I realized I'm not happy unless I have these kinds of projects and problem solving and people. So that's when I started investigating it. I had been watching for like the previous 20 years before there was the so-called professional organizer. I'd seen a couple articles that I'd saved, and I knew I was kind of weird. People, when I tell them I love to go in and and do this crazy stuff, and they're like, you are sick, They really, but when I had this space for the first time in my life to decide to do anything I wanted to do with free time, I realized I needed something with people and something with goals. And if I was going to do it, I was going to do it professionally. And I was going to be educated and licensed and insured and do it the right way. Because there's a lot of people that do try to do this kind of work. And you have to be careful, as in anything. Because there's a lot of confidentiality, a lot of liability. There's a lot of personal involvement. So I then pursued the National Association of Professional Organizers. I went to their convention, which was hysterical.
Who knew there was such an organization?
I know. And to go into a room with 2,000 organizers.
Wow.
But the educational part, I read their chat every day. We all talk. We all challenge each other. We all ask for help. And that's my favorite part. I love to learn. So that's a long answer to a quick question, but
it's an excellent answer. And one of the things that you bring to the table, so to speak, or at least if you can find a surface of a table to bring something to it,
right.
Is all the different ideas that you have of, here's what you could do with this, or have you thought, like one of the suggestions you made to myself and my partner was to take pictures of things instead of keeping the item or the photograph or the poster or whatever it is that you think you need to keep for your grandkids or whatever. You suggested taking pictures, which really was a brilliant idea.
It's particularly important. It's a great tool for anybody, but we have a lot of seniors. We have a lot of baby boomers that, and our parents who are downsizing and needing to cut back on everything that they own, the space that they live in. And I always recommend that before they leave their home of many, many years, photograph the whole home in its very best light. And you can keep a little booklet of those photos, and make an online book. Keep the love, keep the memories, but you have to let go of the things. And I remind them, if they don't decide where the things go, then people in their family or strangers get to decide where all their precious things go. Sometimes that'll motivate people.
Yep, I've told my mother that. Yes, she is a bit of a hoarder in certain areas of her life. And I've told her, I said, Mom, I don't know what's important in all these papers. And so if you can't sort through them before you go, I have to tell you, all your work over the last 30 years is not going to be kept, because I'm not going to keep boxes of papers that I don't know what they're for.
It's true. It's true. And
I guess that sounds mean, but...
No, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And I think when seniors look at that, you never know what's going to trigger the change for people. You just never know. So I try to come up with 20 million different ideas. And I tell people, I'm just going to throw them out there for you to pick and choose. I don't have an ego. I don't care if you take any of them or all of them, but I'm just going to put it out there because it's trying to get someone from A to Z. And when they call me, they're usually ready. usually. To make the call, like you said,
Right.
to make the call is the biggest step.
Yeah. And that's true for anything is when somebody is in need of
Right.
guidance or help, they'll, in terms of my clients, the kind of people that I see, they're usually ready to do the work, whatever the work is that I
Yes.
set up for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, you on your website you have listing of why organize, and it was interesting to me because the first thing was health, for your health, be organized for your health. Now, I read that and I was like, well, why? What? How does that work? Except that for me, what I get is it's my mental health. If I have things organized, I know where everything is, and I'm less stressed.
Right.
But I would imagine it's also for your health.
Physical issues too. When I share stories, I share them anonymously, and because I have like doctor's confidentiality, so I'll tell you stories, but I'll distort them so that you don't. There's no sign of.
So give us a story.
So I was working with someone who had been through tremendous traumas, and I mean, the person had every reason in the world to struggle with things because of what they had been through. But for whatever reason, and I think it was just pure love of family, the family had gotten behind the person and just decided that they were going to see if she would be open to me helping. And after she watched me work with other family members over a 2-year period, she felt safe.
Wow.
So I went in and we started working, and her son said to me, did she apologize for the condition of the space? And I thought about it and I thought, no, and that was rather unusual because almost everybody, and what the public describes as hoarder, and we use that term too easily, because the hoarding scale, there's actually a spectrum, and it's part of mental health diagnosis now, and I think there's 5 different levels. But anyway, she never apologized, like she didn't.
But was she on that spectrum of hoarding?
Yeah.
I just turned that show on before we came to the studio this morning. I have never seen the show.
Oh my gosh.
And I turned it on, and I had to turn it off because it was so unsettling to me.
You never want to turn it on when you're eating.
So and I was having lunch. So that's terrible. But so the kind of hoarding that's on that show is the high spectrum, I would imagine. There were people, having 3 feet of room to climb over a garbage heap in their home.
Literally just little deer paths.
Oh my
I mean, the
gosh.
worst story I heard, one of the worst ones, and it was in the newspaper, was a husband reported his wife lost and missing.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
She had died in the
Oh,
refuse. And they didn't find her.
Oh.
And you would think, well, from the smell, you would find a dead body, right? Or
Yeah.
you would know. But literally, what accumulates and rots and deteriorates on so many levels over a long period of time, you couldn't tell the smell was there because there was already a smell. So anyway, this person that I was working with, she really was trying hard, and she was working hard, and she's trying to move forward, and she never apologized. I normally wear a mask when it's really dusty. So there's a health issue right there.
Oh, the dust. Yes,
dust.
I actually
Like
witnessed
20
that.
years of dust where you can't see the color of the furniture, So for me, that's a big issue, is the dust. But she refused to wear her hearing aids, and so she had to read my lips to understand what I was saying.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't wear the mask that often. Plus, her room was like in the attic. It was extremely hot. It seems like it's always 100 when I work there. So it was physically tough. There were animal feces everywhere on the floor.
But are you saying like cat or
Yeah.
other rodents?
At least cat.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, but I can't, if she's not seeing it, if she's not wanting to deal with it, then it puts me in a tricky spot because I can't judge, I can't humiliate, I can't, if I start cleaning up, it could disturb her, she could shut down. So it's a real tricky balance.
Oh my goodness.
It's a mental health thing. So we have the dust, we have the feces, we have usually mites. She couldn't get in to change her bedding. And literally the fur from the cats had coated the sheets. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So in the end, when we finally got to the bottom of all the stuff and she was starting to see what was left there, it did disturb her. And she told the people helping, I don't want Denise to see this. And so they pulled the rug and everything before I came back the last time. In actuality, I had seen it from the beginning.
Right.
But she wasn't ready to see it till near the end.
It's amazing how we as human beings can convince ourselves of things that are so plain and right in front of our face, and we can absolutely choose to ignore it.
Right. And then there's the tripping as we age. Particularly, there's the possibility of tripping. You know, there's a possibility of, something falling, breaking. I mean, any number of accidents can occur. And so when I work with seniors, which periodically it seems like they come in first I'll have a lot of younger people, then I'll have a bunch of married couples with kids, and then I'll have a bunch of seniors all at once. And I enjoy all the people. But with seniors, it's different because you have to be super careful about their limited hearing, vision. You have to really strategize so that they don't get hurt even in the process of removing or changing what they created.
Now, do you always enlist the client to help you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I were to just go in and be a cleaning service, if the client doesn't buy in, it doesn't work. Now, there are instances where I can work independently, particularly if it's a time crunch for someone. If I've worked with them, if they know me really well, I can do a certain amount and leave homework. But if we don't do it together, it just doesn't really work. And we have to talk through the whole thing, and I have to know, well, what is this, and are you keeping it, or is it going, and many, many, many different questions like that.
Well, so in working with the client, it sounds like you have a goal of hopefully teaching them. I really don't mean this to be judgmental, but teaching them better behavior so they don't get back into that feces mite infested situation.
And you never know, because if you're dealing with someone that's high on the hoarder scale, it's rare that they're going to change without mental health support. So a professional organizer would work in tandem with a therapist for people with basically it's severe mental health issues.
Yeah.
And so but sometimes, and I was thinking, can I work alone? I had worked with someone that's in their 90s and had 10 years of paper piled. And so a lot of that, I worked on paper for 4 months. It was brutal. Paper's slow because it's page by page decisions, but because it was categorized from different things, once we got into a system and I knew what they wanted, I could sort on my own.
Right.
And so sometimes I can, but generally I prefer not to. I don't even want the liability of being alone in someone's home,
possibly looking at important papers. Just don't. I try to be careful for me and for the client. That makes a lot of sense. So other things that you say of why it's good to organize, not just for your health and well-being, but there's an economic standpoint.
Absolutely.
Now speak to that for a second.
Okay. My tagline for my business, Amazing Grace Organizing, is "It once was lost and now it's found." Every single job, and I love to laugh about it, and I love when it happens, when that moment happens, but we'll find stuff and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I was wondering where that was, and I've since bought 20 of them." So just duplication and the expiration of things that you didn't know they were there, so you bought more. That's a big deal. I think probably the most common thing is late payments, because people tend to open their mail, look for the juicy things, and then they just set it somewhere. So my really chronically disorganized people have piles, and they have trouble getting back to them. So they end up paying late fees, and they end up spending a lot of extra money because they aren't in a system of regularly paying. So
let's speak to that for a second, Denise. What kind of system would you set up for people that are bringing their mail into the house? So it doesn't just get left in a pile.
Exactly. I individualize for each person because some people are visual. Everybody has different, they're different types of learners, or they have different preferences. But I tell people, if you're going to open it, go from A to Z. If you're just going to open it and just set it down, that's the problem. So if they insist on opening because they just can't wait, put it all in one place and at least once a week go through it. That's the minimum.
Wait. So I'm tracking what you just said. Open the mail when you bring it into the house and put it all in one place.
I would prefer that they don't do anything to it till they're ready to totally process the mail. So for me, like when I go out to the mailbox, I'm thumbing through it on my way back. I'm looking for something interesting or super important. But generally, for me, I like to do the mail. I feel good to get it done.
Yeah.
Not everybody does.
This goes in recycling. This goes in recycling.
Yeah. I tell people I have a chair. I put my feet up, and right next to me I have something where I can literally toss into, I'm going to read it later. I'm going to recycle it. This is shred. And so that way I can open them and immediately process it. And anything that I need to follow up on goes into file folder. I have bills to be paid. I have something to follow up on. I have a folder just for insurances, like medical stuff. Or sometimes I'll have something that it's a credit or something that I need to make a call about. So I have a place. I just sit in that chair. I don't have to move. I make it enjoyable. I tell people, get your favorite drink. Make it something that you can relax and enjoy. It's not drudgery. I think for some people, maybe they're afraid to open their mail because it represents how they're falling apart in their life. Maybe
really?
Because if there's a lot of late notices,
bills and stuff. Yeah.
Bad news, maybe that's why they don't want to open it. I don't know. But
no, that makes sense to me. And I did not see the economic side of it. So then there's also being organized, you said, is got some emotional positivity to it. I tell you, when I have things in order, I feel good. When things are chaotic, I spin into the other hemispheres.
Well, in feng shui, they say that clutter is silent noise. So if you go into a room and it's totally cluttered, most people want to close the door and leave. For me, and I have been the extreme end. I say I'm in recovery and I don't have to be so perfect all the time, which to me is more healthy, because if you're always like a room, if it's always looking perfect, you're not actually living in there and enjoying it. And my children reminded me of that. So it's kind of a family joke. But they are also telling me that they've picked up a lot of skills.
Yeah, good.
That are coming in handy. They're like, oh, God, Mom, I put Post-it notes up just like you. And I go, well, did it help? But, emotionally, sometimes it's a burden for me because it's so important. It's just feeling at peace. And that's like my most favorite thing. I like to be surrounded by beauty and laughter and just peace. Because from there, that's my blank palette. That's from where I create. And I
Makes sense to me.
I need that. But, I've talked to artists. They said, no, I need chaos. I need my studio to be crazy and so I can be creative. So everybody's different, or they'll say, oh, I know where every single thing is, doesn't bother me, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, okay, fine. If it doesn't bother you, then it's not an issue. But they're late, they're looking for something, they're stressed out because they can't find their keys, they can't find this, they can't find that. Where's that important folder? We lost the homework. That's stressful. So to me, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Why make your life harder?
It doesn't make sense to me either, but I have met people that are they live their life very differently than I do. And it doesn't make sense to me, Denise. I mean, I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, it still does not make sense to me. I don't understand why you want to walk around with all that stuff. Okay. My girlfriend is going to be totally fun about this. I have this friend years and years ago. And not that she's not a hoarder or anything, she just doesn't know how to be organized. And we were out somewhere and she goes, oh, I said, do you have a brush? Can I borrow your brush? Yeah. It's in my purse. I opened up her purse. It was full to the brim with receipts from 2 years ago, makeup that was empty. You know, I mean, it was like, it was crazy making to me. I said, how do you live with this? She's like, what? I said, how do you find anything? You know, she pulled out her wallet, and again, it was over full. And then the brush, I couldn't brush my hair with that brush. I said, do you know that you can clean this brush? She goes, how do you do that? She didn't know.
Yeah, I've worked
She
with
just
a
always
lot
goes
of
and buys a
people.
new brush.
They said nobody ever taught me.
Yeah, that was
It's
what
like
she
maybe
said.
their home of family of origin. There wasn't a model. I had a bachelor in his early 40s, and he hired me, and he said, how do you fold a sweater? And I looked at him, I thought he was teasing me, and he was serious. So then I can't show judgment.
Right.
Luckily, I'm blessed. Sometimes I don't have a poker face, but I do have a sense of humor. So if I smile, it can be with love. But I looked at him and I thought, really? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fold a sweater, and then I'm going to show you how to hang, and different ways of hanging different articles, and there's different hangers, and we're going to start from square one. And so it's kind of like when I used to teach school, and I used to say, well, you would never do that in your home, so you shouldn't do that in school. But then later, when I worked with children in their home who were sick for a school district, I found that no, that's not true. There's a lot of things that people do in their homes that I was just shocked about, and that the kids had grown up that way. So I think the full spectrum is such an education for me to see really how people live. I think if you talk to firefighters, they can tell you too, because they're in a lot of homes or businesses, and people may seem like they're not social, but they can't let people come in because most people are aware that it's embarrassing and unhealthy.
Really?
And so they just close off, and it gets worse and worse, and they can't get help, and they don't even want to have the cable guy come in because they don't want anybody to see. So then there's more breakdowns, and it's just tragic. It's very, very tragic.
Well, Denise, I could not do your job because as much inner work as I do and metaphysical things that I do, I have judgment.
Oh,
I do. I had another friend. We were having a support group meeting at different people's homes in this particular group, and it was her turn to host the group. And we went to her house, and there was no place to sit on the couch because, and there were 5 of us because she had newspapers stacked. There was no place on the table to put a drink, and yet she put out coasters for us. Interesting. And then to get to the bathroom, we were walking over still fully packed moving boxes, even though she'd been there probably 4 months, And I just, I looked at her and I said, I can't stay. I can't stay because this is I was mean, inhospitable. And she looked at me and she's like, what are you talking about? I want you guys here. I said, but you did not clear any space for us to be here, to sit on the couch or sit on a chair.
Right.
Or,
did she see that?
As soon as I said it, it was like then the light went on. Then she saw, and after that she was always, at least the living room was, it didn't matter what her bedroom looked like or whatever, just as long as we had a place to sit so we could conduct business.
Well, most people, when they have company, usually clear a space.
Yes.
And quite often I'll go to someone's home and they'll have in the closet usually boxes where they'd cleared a room, put it in a box, and then the boxes end up getting stacked up. And we all do that at times. You're not always ready for the public, and whether you're not dressed right or you have stuff out, or we all get caught, and you want to do a quick sweep of the room or the house and just make it presentable. We have that sense, but a lot of people don't even have that sense of there's something wrong. And
it wasn't until I had pointed it out to her, and then I learned later, what her, like you said earlier, what her growing up situation had been, and then it made sense. And then, but also because it had been pointed out to her a couple of times by people that loved her,
okay.
like myself, then she began to investigate how she really wanted to live her life and make choices, proactive choices.
So that's not mean. Actually, what a gift that was for her, because that actually helped her change.
Okay, thanks.
No, but that's unusual because sometimes people just shut down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So on your website, you also talk about the different things that you can help people with. Okay, one of the things that I enjoyed in working with you is you like to create systems, and you mentioned that a little earlier on how to declutter. So can you give us a couple of examples, like if you walk into a room that there's only a little deer trail to get to the bed or whatever, how would you create a system for that?
Every time it's totally different because the physical space, like someone called me recently regarding a Victorian home and out on the Avenue area. And then the more we talked, it sounded like it was just one room in this home. I guess it was rented. And so when it came down to it, she had moved in but never really unpacked. It was a very small space. And I said to her, well, where are we going to work? You know, literally there is no space to work. Are we allowed to overflow into other rooms or into common rooms? Because you may or may not want to do that. And maybe the person that rents the house won't approve of it. So every time it's really different. When you have extreme hoarding situation, it depends on what the goal is. I had a relative that had been through extreme traumas, and another relative said, could you help? And I slowly built up a relationship over a few months, and she agreed to let me come in. And the goal in that situation was to completely move her out, a fresh start.
Well,
and
that she wanted to do that.
She did, but at the same time, the shame and the emotional part, because she hadn't had the emotional support, was just overwhelming. So, in a sense, with her situation, you know those giant dumpsters, the giant ones? We took 7 of those and filled them to overflowing because so much had been there for so long, and it had, there was mold, there was all kinds of, it was just deteriorated that you couldn't keep it. And so it made it easier in the sense that basically we were just unloading to the dumpsters. And we had a pretty good team on that project. And so I worked with her emotionally, and then other relatives were handling the things that were valuable and what we were going to keep, what we were going to sell. So we had a great team effort, but we did have a meltdown, and because there was one private space that just wouldn't let us in. And it just was just so hurtful. So eventually I just sat aside with her and we talked, and we got to a place where we could open the door and go in, but she was only going to let it be certain people a certain way. She had to be in control of it.
Right.
Because it was just she felt naked and exposed, and just she couldn't have felt worse. The good news with her situation is when she had a fresh start and some support to keep it going, she has been successful. So that made me feel really, really good.
So there's places where people, when they begin to divest themselves of their stuff, can in essence find healing or relief that becomes ongoing.
Whatever it was, quite often with people with hoarding disorder, they have it's an umbrella of many different mental health issues, but there's obsessive compulsive buying, which becomes, like you're saying with economics, there were piles of things purchased on sale that had never been used or touched. They're filling a void that they can't fill.
Right.
You know, so
how do you speak to that individual? Because, on Living Your Inspired Life, we often talk about you have to work from the inside out. You know, you can't you can't get someone to love you until you love yourself, and that sounds like the buying and buying and buying to fill a hole.
Right.
And the sales tags are still on the things when you open up the closet years later. It's like,
In this situation, she didn't have any money anymore.
wow.
So when the family rescued her, she didn't have the money to spend obsessively. But she did have the opportunity to have a beautiful, fresh start. And so the team who do love her all manage different aspects of it. So she couldn't let it go out of control because she wasn't completely in control anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Does it seem like people that collect or hoard, or is that usually always a control issue? Wanting to be safe and in control?
To me, I can't speak for all situations, but for me, I think I see more of filling a void.
Mm-hmm.
I know someone with no children, and they thrift shop every day.
Wow.
Not just one of the shops. They hit a circuit.
Right. I have a girlfriend like that. That her she's an empty nester right now, and so her favorite thing is to go to thrift stores. She loves it.
Yeah, I see people that aren't dealing with their mental health issues successfully. And it's interesting because I've done therapy. I love therapy. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And so I've worked hard on it. But when you go to a therapist, you only reveal as much as you feel comfortable with at a time. When I go into a space, I see the truth immediately. It's physically evident.
Right.
There can be things hidden, but I see a lot more than a therapist would on the first visit. So,
well, also because you're going into that person's space.
Absolutely.
A therapist is having you come to their space.
Absolutely. I see the physical evidence. I see what's going on in their head, in their space. Mm-hmm. If their head is in chaos, quite often their space is in chaos, unless they have the gift of obsessive compulsive organizing, but generally not.
So, and I've seen you work with some people now, and your, I want to say, your intuitive guidance system is so right on, because you're able to ask questions that I've seen you ask questions that completely open doors that I would never have thought to even ask that question. I would not have known, and I guess that's from all your experience.
It's surprising to me, but I think I worked with children and young adults and now adults for so many years. And I did work in special ed for many years with severely emotionally disturbed students, and they were extremely bright. So I'm very comfortable with just about everything. And although sometimes I can be surprised, I feel really blessed. Everybody has their gifts, and I didn't really realize what I had. And then people more and more will say to me things like what you said, and that just feels like a total blessing. Thank you. But it happens at times, and people are like totally shocked. It's like, what did you do? But I think what it comes down to is I come from a place of love. So, and I do judge just like you. We all do. We can't help it. We're all prejudiced.
Right.
We can't help it. But I do. As with the children that were severely damaged that I work with, I was successful because they felt trust in me and they knew I was coming from a place of love. And I remind my own children of that, because sometimes their family's the hardest.
Yeah.
We do the best we know how. But yeah, thank you.
Well, it does strike me that you seem to navigate from an intuitive operating system as well. So, and being somebody who, myself, who can listen on several different kinds of levels, it was awesome to watch you work and see that.
Thank you.
That kind of a person working in front of me, asking questions that just, it would not have occurred to me at all.
Strong intuition is a family trait as well. So when you kind of grow up with it.
I think I'm related to your family, Denise.
What is the test that you take?
Myers,
Yeah,
the
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs test,
And
yeah.
you have the letters, the E-N, I, whatever. Periodically, I go back and look at that because intuition is one of my things. The other thing that in high school, we took a test to see what we would be good in. This is way back. I graduated in 1970, so it's a long time ago. And I got almost a perfect score on mechanical reasoning. And I thought, what is that? You know, they showed
Right.
pulleys and machines and all this, but I can look at something and take it apart and put it back together. So I can look at a home that's filled from the floor to
Wow.
the ceiling, and I start to create a plan. And it can be overwhelming, but at the same time, I can take it apart. It's like a puzzle. It's like doing puzzles.
See, I so again respect that because I look at stuff like that and all I see is it's going to the dump right now and I don't even want to stop and sort through for recycling. Let's just clear it out.
Yeah, I understand. And sometimes, sometimes I'm in that mode. But more and more in dealing with people, I've been researching some of what we're about to donate or throw away, and I am really getting into the research, and I'm discovering things that are valuable and that have a story, and that's super fun for me. It's not.
Give me an example of something that you found.
Oh gosh, so many different things. There was like a wood salad bowl, and
A wooden salad bowl. Okay.
And the person had told me a number of times, oh, it used to be valuable, blah, blah, blah. But it just looked like one of those wood, like Hawaiian kind of wood salad bowls. And the people had a lot of possessions and they just wanted to toss everything. And a lot of times people don't want to pay for your time to sort and donate. But I'm very environmentally conscious and I love to donate and I love to find the right home for stuff. But they said, just toss it. I go, do you mind if I clean it up and donate it? And I took it home and I cleaned it. And when I cleaned it, it spoke to me. And I'm like, damn.
You now have a wooden salad bowl.
No, actually, it turned out to be a part of American woodworkers' history.
Oh,
yeah. It's just, I get
wow.
goosebumps still. And I cleaned it up and had it restored by the son of the original woodworker. And
Oh,
it
my
just, It was this
goodness.
huge story. And so it's now in the proper home. And it spoke to me. And I was just going to donate it. And when I turned it over and I saw a signature, I was like, damn it. Because it took me over a year to do the
To
work.
research and find the. Oh, wow, Denise.
But I kind of get into the stories now. So,
yeah, I get that.
yeah.
That's.
Yeah. And I have the time and I meet interesting people in my research. So, I do a lot of things I never intended to do. I used to have a plan. I've heard you talk about envisioning where you want to go and what you want to do, and I think God just laughs at me constantly and says, "Ha ha, you may want to go that direction, but we're going to go over there."
You're going to go over here and research this and find out more about it. Well, one of the things I love about what you do, Denise, and Amazing Grace Organizing is that you do, because of the research you've done, you do know where things can be recycled to or donated to.
Right.
And you had brought up Habitat for Humanity, which it would never have dawned on me to donate furniture to Habitat for Humanity. I don't know why. Rescue Mission, that makes sense
I
to
love
me.
them. I
Yeah.
love them.
And, and then all the other, there's so many other organizations out there.
Well, and like Project Understanding.
Project Understanding. I got to take food and unopened lotions, and you recommended that.
Toiletries.
And toiletries. And they were like, thank you.
Yes. And I just
And
got
pencils and rulers.
They needed beds for they're supporting also some homes for teenage pregnancy, and they need beds. It's like the stuff shows up and I go, hang on, I think I have a home for that. We had like 10 suitcases just recently, and there's a group that takes suitcases and for children that are pulled by protective services in the middle of the night, they put their stuff in a garbage bag.
Oh, Lord.
So they have this program with the suitcases,
Yes.
So I just we have an amazing community. Ventura's like amazing, and I just love it because it's all really easy to access. And if I get stuck, then I get a bug in me, and I'm like, okay, we'll find another way, another place for these items. But,
I appreciate that you know how to do that, because like I said, I'm the one that's just going to take it all and dump it, just give it away, which is interesting. Along this journey, I met a man. His name is Claudio. I promised I would mention him. Claudio, and his business is haul and things, and he'll haul anything, big, huge projection televisions. He'll take it to electronic recycling for you. I had stuff in my garage that I had no clue where it was going to go. Old propane tanks. He takes old paint, tires. He takes everything, and he's a philosopher, and he's I think he's from Brazil. I can't remember, but so Claudio is telling me everything that you said too. He said, Suzanne, the baby boomers are now getting rid of stuff because they're really realizing, instead of working, they want to live the rest of their life. And so instead of having all this huge amount of stuff in a big, huge house, everybody's downsizing. And he said, and it's so important to do that, because when you create space, this is a guy who hauls my junk, Claudio.
He's an entrepreneur.
He is, and he's a metaphysician. He said, when you empty out space, you have room for more love. And I went, well, you got me there. True, right?
It's true. Yeah, you have to create the space if you want something to come into your life. And I'm constantly going through my home, because there's times in your life where you have a vision for yourself, and maybe it doesn't manifest, and you have these things that go with that vision. But, I'm not always ready to let go of it. But now I'm like reorganizing. I think that's a secret of life. When you look at older people, and I have a client who's 98, he drives a sports car.
98, Just tell me when he's on the road.
I love him. He comes in a little hot.
Yeah,
hits a curb, but I just love him. And I forgot what I was telling you. I had this whole vision of him.
You were talking about people having goals and letting go of things.
Oh God, I lost it now. I had a picture of him behind the wheel.
Well,
sorry.
This is something that that I practice all the time in my life, is letting go of stuff so that there's empty space so new can come in. And in this move that I just did, I was unpacking. I had a couple friends power pack my kitchen. So a bunch of stuff got packed that I hadn't quite sorted through. And so when I was unpacking, I was like, so I had more boxes to take to Goodwill or Habitat or Rescue Mission, And I came across this candy jar that had been my grandmother's. And I think I'm like the person that holds all the tchotchke, antique-y things from my nieces and nephew and my son. I'm holding everything, But so I came across this candy jar, which I've had for 21 years and I've never used. And I went, I guess it's time to give it away. So I put it in the giveaway box, right? Along with some vases that were my grandmother's and a few other things, right? And so my man comes home and I said, okay, we're going to go take this and donate it. And he goes, well, what's in it? And the next thing I know, that candy jar is on the counter. I was like, you really want me to have my grandma's candy jar? I said, I have 2 more of her candy jars, but you really want this one? He goes, yeah, it's really pretty. I was like, well, maybe I'll start using it. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes if you look at it differently and repurpose it for
somebody
something
else's
else,
eyes on it.
even if it's holding something in a closet or in a drawer. But I'm also for some reason, I have all the grandma and grandpa's stuff. And it's around my house, and when I look at it, I feel like there's love there. And sometimes I'll ask them for some help, but I'm surrounded by them. But I'm also thinking, well, if my children aren't interested in these things, that's the hardest situation. If you're the holder of the family heirlooms and there's nobody to pass them to, or they're not interested, then what? So that's something that I'm really, really working on, because it may be part of my issue.
Well, yes, I had a feeling, especially with this move, I was kind of having that inkling about myself. And my niece over the summer came and stayed for a few days. And so I showed her, I said, look, I'm holding this for you. Do you want it? my grandmother's spice jars that are from the 1930s, and I said, I'm not using these, but I felt a need to hold them, and I think they're for you. Do you want them? And she goes, I do. And, she's about to graduate from college. She goes, when I get my own place next year, I want those. So I'm keeping the spice jars until...
It's challenging. Sometimes you just have to be patient. And like you say, when you're ready to purge, it's got to go, and it's got to go now. But there's a few things that I held on to. My dad was purging. He's our family organizer.
By purging, you mean give things away,
He'll
right?
start cleaning out. She's on a cleaning drive, and the girls will be all like crying, Dad, Dad. And he's like going through everybody's stuff, not respecting boundaries. It's an issue. But he had his Navy jacket, his he was an artillery gunnery officer, and it was a heavy jacket. It has his name, his insignia, his rank, and everything. And he just tossed it. I go, no, Dad, that's really special. So I held on to it for a really long time. Recently, I did find the right home for it. It made me so happy. I gave it to his grandson, who has his name within his name, so he could wear the jacket, and it has part of his real name.
That's cool.
And he's also into a lot of military stuff and Japanese martial arts and stuff, so it fit for him. But I also am careful not to burden the younger generation coming up with our stuff that we couldn't make decisions about. It can be a huge burden. It can paralyze people.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that with my mom when I go to visit. She's like, 5 sets of china. She has 5 sets of china. Do you want this china? And I'm like, Mom, I don't have space for all this china. And, well, I should give it to the granddaughters, but they're all in college, and moving around. They don't have space for china
Younger
yet
generation's not really into it.
China, no.
Yeah, they're not, or like the silver platters.
I have all the silver. I'm holding all the family silver. Okay, it's in a storage unit, people. You can't come to my house and get the silver. But, yeah. So when...
They don't want it.
So when somebody's about needing to purge, needing to let go of things, what do you recommend? I've heard people talk about recently, if it gives you joy, you keep it. Or if it gives you joy, you... Like with a sweater, if it gives you joy, put it on, wear it for a few moments.
Right. Well, when you go into your closet, there's some things that you grab all the time. They say we only wear 10% of what we have in our closets. It's the stuff that we love, and we wear it over and over and over. And there's other stuff that you could only wear in certain short meetings or whatever, because it's not that comfortable or it looks a certain way. I look in my closet. Sometimes you literally feel like there's nothing to wear.
Right.
Because it doesn't fit, what you want. But it depends on what you're purging. Clothes is different versus heirlooms versus, just general household appliance and household items. It all varies. But generally, I say do it like an onion. Don't go in for the big kill and feel like a failure if you don't get it all done. Just do a little bit at a time and start creating space. And it feels really good. Sometimes if I'm frustrated, I'll do a closet. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But I am a professional organizer, so that's my
sock
illness.
drawer. A sock drawer works really well.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good. Or I'll do my mom's pantry, and she'll say, oh, you're just like your dad. And I go, well, somebody's got to do it for you, Mom. I don't want you. I have worked with seniors where there was food exploded in their pantry and food in the refrigerators that was so old. I don't know how they live.
I've seen that.
I wonder if they build up a resilience and live longer because they're eating toxic,
I don't know.
expired stuff. They can't see the expiration dates, even on their medicines.
When I had my girlfriend's power pack my kitchen, somebody was going through my spice cabinet.
Uh-oh.
And she's like, when did you buy this? I said, I don't know. And I started thinking about it. I realized I'd probably had those particular spices for at least 18 years. She's like, no. Spices are really good for about a year.
6 months to 2 years, depending on how temperature controlled.
I was like, okay, I guess I'm throwing all these things out, which felt like I was throwing out food to me.
It's true. I worked with one lady who was emotionally not well, and she had lost her phone, her checkbook. many important things, finally broke down and called me. And when I saw the condition of her place, the smell alone was really, really hard for me. She really, really needed help. And so she said, let's start on my car.
Oh.
Because she couldn't find these important things. And so I did the trunk first. And to me, it's like a scavenger hunt. It's an adventure. And I found a yogurt.
Oh.
This is Thousand Oaks. It gets 100 and plus in garages. There was a yogurt that was over 6 months expired in the trunk.
And that's what it was.
Well, no, that was just one of the things, but she wouldn't let me throw it away.
Oh, gosh.
And I told her, I'm so afraid I'll come back. If you eat this, you could die. And she said, no, I'm just funny that way. I can't throw food away.
Oh, yeah. I can relate. But not about yogurt. So, Denise, give everybody the phone number so that people can call you.
Oh, okay. It's 805-340-7963.
805-340. Go on.
7963.
Okay. And the company is called Amazing Grace Organizing. I've been
Right.
speaking with Denise Abdun-Nur.
Yes.
And I just want to give a shout out to Claudio Hall and Things, and his number is 805-585-0007. Denise, thank you again for being a gift and being the amazing grace that you are.
Thank you for appreciating me. It feels good.
You're so welcome. So I'm just going to end with, and so it is, namaste.